Welcome in the 12th episode of our pair matching game tutorial. In today's episode, we will implement in-game UI. So in our game scene, we will have three buttons, one to exit game, one to restart game, and one to mute sounds. We will also attach the sounds to our puzzles, so whenever you press on the puzzles, the sounds will be played. And then if you mute the sound will not play on the press, and these settings will be remembered across all of the scene. So even if you mute your sounds in the game scene and go back to the main menu, the sounds will not be played until you unmute it. Okay, so let's get started. Let's first of all open our project and go to the scenes folder and then open the game scene. So now inside the game scene, click on the canvas, right click on it, UI, and then button. So this button is gonna be our back button. So I will just change the name to back. So back button, and then I will remove this text component. So let's click on this arrow and then select the text and press delete. Now let's apply the source image. So our images for the buttons will be under the resources graphics and the game UI graphics. And then let's select our close button and then drag and drop it onto the source image. So now I will set the size to be 50 by 50. And then I will move it to the right and to the top corner. Okay, so now we need to attach the button behavior script to our main camera. So I will just select the main camera, go to the scripts folder, and then drag and drop our button behavior onto the main camera. And now we can go back to our back button and then go to the on-click event, click the small plus, drag and drop our main camera onto the runtime objects. From the functions here, we can select the button behavior and then load scene. And then we want to put the name of the scene which we want to load. So I gonna just select the scene folder to make sure I'm not making any spelling mistake. So it's gonna be the set game. So I will just want to go back to the set game. Okay, so put your name here. Okay, and then now we can go to the file save and then let's test the scene. So I just press play. Okay, so if I press this X, I go into the right scene, and then when I start it, I can go back. Okay, so everything seems to be fine. And as you see, we have an error because this game should be started from the main menu, not from this scene. So that's why this is there is an error. Okay, let's add another button. So inside the scene, I will just right click on the canvas and then UI button. And this button will be the restart button. Remove the text component again. And then let's set the source image, so game UI graphics, and then restart button, just grab it and drag and drop it onto the source image. Set the size to be the same, 50 by 50. And I will set the same Y for this button, so select the back button, and I will just copy this Y position. And then go back to restart button, and then I just gonna paste this Y position to be the same. So everything is on the same level, and I will just change the X position to be like that. Okay, and then our restart button will be restart our game. So what we're gonna do, we wanna go onto the on-click event, press the small plus, drag and drop our main camera, and then from the functions, button behavior, load scene, and then we want to load exactly the same scene as we are on. So we want to load the game scene. So I will put the game scene. Game scene, okay? Let's save everything. And then let's press play. And see what we got if we press restart now. We're loading exactly the same scene. Let's start proper game. So we have some pictures. If we turn the pictures now, let's find a pair. Okay, so we remove two pictures. If we press restart, the game is restarting and everything starting from the beginning, even the timer. So that works. Okay, the last button we want to add is our mute sounds button. So I will just right click on the canvas and then UI button, and this button will be the mute sound. Mute sound. Okay, let's remove the text component again. Let's go back to our graphics UI, and then let's find this sounds unmuted button, and then drop it onto the source image. Set the same width and the height, which will be 50 by 50, and then let's actually grab the Y position from the previous button, and then put the same Y position for the sounds button. Okay, so everything is on the same level, and I will just move it to be closer. So with the sounds button, we actually will need to have another script, because we wanna replace the sprite based on the bottom state. So if the sounds is muted, we wanna have this icon displayed, but if the sound is unmuted, we wanna have another one. So those two icons will be changed. So let's quickly go to our scripts folder, and I will just create new script. So I will just right click, create C# script, and I will name this script mute sounds effect button. Okay, press enter and then open it in the Visual Studio. Okay, before we do any modification with this script, let's quickly go back to our game settings script. And then we want to add one more variable inside the script. So right at the top, I will add the private bool mute fx permanently will be equal to false. So this variable will represent if our sound is muted or not. And then right at the bottom of the script, we want to add two functions. The first one will be public void mute sounds effect permanently, and then we want to pass the bool muted, and this function will set mute sounds button permanently to be equal to muted. Okay, and then one more function below, which will be public bool is sound effect muted permanently, and we want to just return mute fx permanently. Okay, so these are two functions which we need to add to this class. Let's save everything, and now let's go back to our mute sounds effect button, and inside this class, let's first of all, right at the top, I will just remove these comments. And then before we start typing anything, let's put another using statement. So below, I will put using Unity engine.ui. Okay, and then right at the top of the class, we're gonna create public sprite unmuted fx sprite. Okay, and then one more variable which will be the muted. So we have two sprites, one for unmute state and one for the muted state. And then let's capture the button. So private button, and I will just call it button. And then I will just capture also the sprite state. So it's gonna be the sprite state, and then I will just call it state. Okay, and then in our start function, let's first of all grab the reference for our button script. So button will be equal to get component button. Okay, so we're just gonna capture the component, the button component, and then if our game settings dot instance dot is sounds effect muted permanently. So if the sounds is muted, we want to do the state dot pressed state will be equal to muted sounds fx sprite, and then state dot highlighted state will be equal to muted sounds fx sprite. Okay, so we want to set the sprites for those two states, and then also we want to set the sprite for the bottom. So bottom dot get component image dot sprite will be equal to muted sound effect sprite. Okay, so I will just save it, and then otherwise we want to I will just copy those 3 lines and then put the else statement below. So if the sounds bottom is not muted, we wanna do exactly the same, but we just want to use the unmuted sprite. Okay, so we just copy unmuted and then replace this unmuted everywhere. Okay, so another thing which we want to do is we want to just delete this update method, and then we want to put the void on GUI, and then inside the on GUI we want to check if game settings dot instance dot is sounds effect muted permanently. We want to grab the bottom dot get component image dot sprite to be equal to muted sounds effect sprite, and then otherwise we want to just duplicate this line and we want to set unmuted sprite. Okay, so this is on GUI, so make sure you have everything like that. And then last function which we want to add in this class is going to be the public void to toggle fx icon. Okay, so this function will be just changing the sprites. So inside this function we will do if the game settings dot instance dot is sounds effect muted permanently. We want to do the state dot pressed sprite will be equal to unmuted fx sprite, and then state dot highlighted sprite will be equal to unmuted sprite fx. And then also we want to set our muted variable inside the game settings. So game settings dot instance dot mute sounds effect permanently, and we want to pass false. And then I will just copy these 3 lines of code and then put the else statement and then paste it. And then we just replace this unmuted fx sprite with this muted fx sprite. Okay, just make sure you don't make any mistake with this muted and unmuted sprite. If you do, you will have just wrong icon displayed on your button. And then make sure you change this false to true. And then right after this else statement, we want to get the bottom dot sprite state will be equal to state. Make sure you save everything now. So file save. Actually, I will use this icon. So now let's go back to our Unity. So to our game scene, and then let's click on our mute sounds button, and then let's grab our mute sounds button effect script and then attach it onto this button. And then we need to populate the unmuted sprite effects and muted sprite effects. We just go to the resources, graphics, game UI graphics, and then let's find this sounds muted button and drag and drop it onto the muted FX sprite. Okay, and then sound unmuted button, drop it on the unmuted FX sprite. And then inside our onClick event, I will just press this small plus And then I will just drag muted sound button. So make sure you just grab this object and then drop it. And from this object, we're gonna select from the functions, muted sounds effect button, toggle FX icon. Let's save everything now. And then if I press play, when we click on this object, of course we have an error because the game settings is not instantiated. So let's quickly stop it and go back to our scene and then start the game from the main menu. And then on the console I will just clear all of the errors and then press play again and then press play, start the game. So if you press on this mute sound, as you see, as you pressed, you have this the icons changed. Let me actually run this game in the full screen. So if I start the game, as you see, we currently have the unmuted. So if I mute it now, it's gonna be muted. If I go back to the main menu and start the game again, we have muted, so it's muted. The icon is staying on the state we set it. And then if I press again, the icon's staying on the same state. If I unmuted it, I can restart the game. The icon remaining on the correct state. Okay, so everything seems to be fine. Now let's play some sounds when we turn the pictures. So I will just stop this project and I will go to the prefabs and then picture prefab. I will just double click on it to open it, and then on the picture prefab we have the source image, we have the audio source. So we're gonna use this audio source to play the sound. So make sure if you don't have the audio source on this object, just click add component and then put audio source and then just click on this audio source. Okay, so make sure you have this audio source component attached, and then let's go back to our scripts, and then I will just click on the picture script. Okay, and then right at the top I will add one more public variable, so public audio clip, and then I will just call it press sound. Okay, and then below I will be below the index I will just grab the reference for our audio source, so private audio source, and I will just call it audio. Okay, so in our start function I will just call the audio will be equal to game component, get component, audio source, and then below audio dot clip will be equal to press sound. Okay, so we're just gonna assign the clip to our audio source. And now let's go to on mouse down button, on mouse down function, and inside the on mouse down, under this F statement, I will add the F statement if the game settings dot instance dot is sound effect muted permanently is equal to false. So if we didn't mute the sound, we want to call the audio dot play. Okay, and then the same for the flip back. So we just copy this line, and then before we start coroutine, I will just play the sound as well. And actually on our on mouse down function, we're gonna reorder this a bit. So let's move this F statement, which we just put it, to be above the start coroutine. Okay, so we wanna play the sound before we start the rotation. Okay, so let's save everything now, and let's go back to Unity. Okay, and then let's go to the prefabs folder, click on the picture prefab, and now let's scroll down to our picture script, and you see we have the press sound, so we need to assign the sound now. So our sound will be under the sounds folder, and I just called it pick for nowy. So this is like a name of the sounds, which is kind of weird, but just grab it and drag and drop it onto the press sound. You can actually use any sound you like. I just personally like this one for this effect. Okay, so once you've done it, you need to press the small arrow and then make sure you save everything. So file save, okay, and then when you go on the picture prefab, make sure this sound is assigned and make sure you have the audio source component. And inside the audio source component actually is very important to you disable, because by default when you add this component you have this play on awake enabled, so make sure it's disabled. Okay, so we don't want to play the sound as soon as the scene started. Okay, so let's save again and then let's test it. So play, let's start the game. So the sound is unmuted. So as you see, we have the sound. And I think it sounds nice. So let's mute the sounds now. So I just press mute and the sound is not playing because it's muted. Okay, if you go back to the scene, to the main menu, start again, let's select 20 pairs. Sound is not playing because it's muted. So if you unmute sound now, everything is playing. So I think everything looks good. And then we can restart the game as well. Okay, so everything seems to be fine. So I think that's it for this episode. In the next episode, we were gonna address some of the issues inside the game. So there are a few issues which I already seen, and we're gonna address those. And then of course we're gonna implement other scenes, which is the leaderboard, and then of course the game settings. So thank you very much for watching and see you again in the next episode.